The unsinkable ship. God himself couldn't sink this ship. Boasted a crew member aboard the White Star Line's 46,000-ton Titanic, an opulently appointed ocean liner larger than any ship ever built before. On April 10, 1912, to the fascination of newspaper readers around the world, the gigantic luxury craft sailed toward New York from Southampton, England, carrying 891 crew and 1,316 passengers. At around 10 o'clock, for after-dinner relaxation, a few of the second-class passengers gathered to sing hymns, including a traditional mariner chorus. "Oh, hear us when we cry to thee, for those in peril on the sea." At 11:40 p.m., Lookout Frederick Fleet suddenly spied a small, dark object, darker than the inky midnight waters upon which it floated. It grew rapidly larger, sharply striking the crow's nest bell 3 times. He telephoned the bridge. "Iceberg right ahead!" First Officer William Murdoch immediately ordered the engine room to reverse engines and told his steersman, Quartermaster Robert Hichens, to turn the wheel hard starboard. In the sailing argot of the time, this meant to turn the ship's stern hard to starboard, or toward the right side of the craft, so that the bow would swing to port or toward the left. Too few lifeboats. Just after midnight, about 25 minutes after the seemingly unremarkable impact, the crew was ordered to uncover the 16 lifeboats and 4 canvas collapsibles on board. At most, they could hold 1,178 people, or about 1,000 fewer than the passengers and crew who now began to crowd the decks. Ironically, regulation for stocking lifeboats had required only enough boats to carry 962 passengers, for regulators hadn't foreseen the construction of such a huge liner. Nor, of course, had anyone given serious consideration to the possibility that a flagship of the White Star Line would ever need to be evacuated. Not all of the lifeboats on board hadn't been supplied with signal flares, food, or containers of fresh water, and lifebelts were scarce. The enormously wealthy John Jacob Astor had sneered at first when evacuation was ordered. "We are safer here than in that little boat," he said. When one society matron agreed with him, an annoyed crewman shot back, "Don't waste time. Let her go if she won't get in." Gradually resistance crumbled, the jogging died down, and passengers set to the grim task of filling the lifeboats. Men stood stoically on deck as women and children boarded the flimsy-looking craft. In the confusion, the first boat, which could hold 65 people, was lowered into the water with only 28 aboard. One capable of taking on 40 was allowed to pull off with only 12 persons. Several hundred people gathered on the stern as it rose ever higher into the air. At 2:18 a.m. the Titanic stood up on its bow, pausing in a vertically upright position. Then, with a horrendous noise, a final collapse, the famous watertight bulkheads imploded, and everything loose on the decks, equipment as well as remaining passengers and crew, was swept into waters that were 4 degrees below freezing. One survivor would later recall the agonizing cries of death from over 1,000 throats, the wails and groans of the suffering, the shrieks of the terror-stricken, and the awful gaspings of those in the last throes of drowning. Incredibly, firemen swarming nearby scalded when explosions brought the icy seas to a boil.